All right, we are live. I'm not sure where my guest for tonight went, but regardless, this is really my only night to do this, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the stream up here. Just make sure we're not getting an echo. Um, I was supposed to have First on for tonight, but he seems to have gone MIA, so hopefully he can join us. But if not, there's a lot going on in regard to the Russo-Ukrainian War right now, so I'd be more than happy to tackle it myself. Hey, Carolina. Question for you. Can you hear me? Because I am using new software, and it's taken me a little getting used to. So I'm not sure. If somebody could just type in the chat if you can hear me or not, that would be wonderful, because this is my first time using OBS. So that would be great. Okay. Get that window up there. Let me try something here too. Oh, there we go. Let's see if that okay, good. So I can be heard. All right. Just bear with me here. I'm like I said, having a little technical difficulties here with this new software. But I think who is First, Carolina? So First is a guy. He hosts a show called Incelmatics, but he has some unique insight into the Russo-Ukrainian War. So we were supposed to stream tonight, but yeah, I haven't heard from him in about High IQ is First, right. But I have not heard from him in about 20 minutes now, so I am hoping he will get back to me, but if not, we're just going to go ahead and I will talk about the things. Anyway, I'm trying to see how I can view the YouTube chat and operate OBS at the same time. Jeremiah, good afternoon, or I should say good evening, sir. How are you? Anyway, whoa, what did I get tagged in here? Hold up a second, guys. Anyway, we've got the definitely some new events unfolding inside of Ukraine right now. So I wanted to take tonight to talk about that. Checking bets press Russia, yes, definitely WCP. The entire country of Russia that takes up 10% of the entire Earth's landmass. But I'm trying to do something here before we go into the topics. Let's just see here. If I turn that off, let me see something. Is that good? Is that working? Trying to switch between inputs here. Okay, that's not working. I'm going back to that. All right, so in the past 48 hours, it looks like Ukraine has freed up about 700 square miles of territory in the Kharkiv region, which is just a crazy rate of advance. And I wanted to hear from First on this, because it seems that it took Russia about 2 months to basically get the Donbass region under control, and now in a matter of days, it seems Ukraine launched their counteroffensive in Kherson, but it was really just a feint. It seems like the real offensive was in the northeast, up by Kharkiv, advancing eastward. And if you follow the channel, Speak the Truth, he verifies a lot of information before announcing it as fact, right? He's got a very good verification process because he has people who are in Telegram chats on both the Russian and Ukrainian sides. And he'll basically wait to see that both sides coincide before considering something, fact. And, it's good because he's really verifying his sources before announcing that either side has seized a certain territory. Let's go to some comments here. Which country has the higher oinkler rate? That would be the weaker country. That's a good question. Um, and again, that's something that First would probably have more insight into. As I mentioned, I don't know how much he would want me to say on the matter, but he does have some unique insight onto this conflict. So let's again. Here's hoping that he has not gone MIA. It does show up. I'm planning to probably keep this going for like a good hour or so, I would say. So, but yeah, that is. I would have no idea on that one. WCP. Ukrainian Luke Skywalker will destroy the Russian Death Star when the war sequels won't be as good, though. Yeah, so it seems right that a lot of this is a propaganda show from both sides, though. Is and I did a video the other day, kind of showing you a couple of pieces of propaganda that I was sifting through, and you saw the one where it appears that the Russians were not actually working out in the background, like they were faking. It's like the guy bench pressing is like it's like when you're filming a movie, right? You have people like at a desk typing, and they're not really typing; they're just hitting keys. It's making a mishmash on the screen, but it's like, hey, make it look like you're typing something, like you're doing work or something, right? And that's what that propaganda seemed like. Makes sense. Like it seemed like they were just like putting on a show, like, oh yeah, yeah, here's the Russian military doing some drills and whatnot. That's just what it seemed like. So I was like, yeah, that guy definitely has a little less credibility in my eyes there. So so yeah, the rate at which Ukraine has been advancing has been pretty crazy, and it's like what will happen inside of Russia now. Not even what will happen inside of Russia. What will happen, um, here in the United States? How will the entire world be impacted by this? Because it looks like this could be another Russian collapse. Which if you're old enough, this is the second. This is the second Russian collapse that we may see in our lifetime, which is just hard to think, but there are implications to that, right? Like instead of having one big giant nuclear state, you could now have a bunch of small nuclear states. Because there's already been, I've already seen some sources saying there are politicians in Russian government in St. Petersburg who are saying that they want to try Putin for treason. This whole thing, if it doesn't go well, will be blamed on Putin. Um, and they need a scapegoat. They want to say, hey, this wasn't us. No, it was Putin. Putin wanted all this. We just went along with it because he just unilaterally makes decisions, and that's how it is. But I'm seeing crazy videos of just I guess they really didn't know how many men that they had up there by Kharkiv, but I'm seeing some pretty crazy videos of failed Russian river crossings, Z tanks just in the river, ammunition and weapons left behind. I had seen some pretty disturbing pictures that our friend sent me. Again, this came from one of the Telegram chats of just gunned down Russians in the trenches when the Ukrainians broke through. And again, the channel Speak the Truth was showing some clips from Russian state TV where they're basically not coping well with what's happening, but have basically begun to admit that things aren't going well. And again, like if you go back to my predictions on this from the beginning of the war, I was saying that I was told on good authority that ultimately, in the end, down the road, maybe not right away, that this this situation does not end well for Russia, and it's starting to look like that could be the case. I thought, okay, the city of Kupiansk was basically the giant Russian supply hub, okay, in the Eastern Front, right? Well, if you're the Russians, it's the Western Front, but anyway, on the Eastern Front for Ukraine, that was Russia's main logistical supply hub, and very fortified. And I'm thinking, okay, they're launching a major counteroffensive. They're probably going to be there, in a month's time. They took Kupiansk today. There was basically a full-on retreat. Izium. I hear that they're advancing on Lyman now as we speak. It almost makes you wonder, like, is this a trap? Like are the Russians retreating to get them to pull back, or is it just military dominance? Like, have the weapons we've provided and training we've provided Ukraine in just such a short time really turned this entire war around? I mean, our officials were saying in the first days of this war that, it was going to take 3 days for Russia to march into Kiev and and capture the capital and behead the government, and that was going to be it. And now here we are watching Russia basically implode in on itself. So it's like, how did we go from overestimating Russian capacity so much to now basically watching the whole thing unravel? And it's like, for Russia to do something at this point, to really gain ground back and ultimately win this war, whatever the objective was from the get-go, they'd have to have a mass mobilization. I mean, they'd pretty much have to send, because they'd sent roughly 20% of their military into Ukraine to begin with, right? And now the problem is, as they retreat hastily, they're dropping a lot of equipment behind. So even if you mobilize your military, Ukraine's now is now armed to the tooth with Russian weapons, Western weapons, NATO weapons. But you got to be you got to be thinking. Let me go to your comment here, WCP, and I don't know how to play the comments on screen on this OBS software yet. I gotta figure that out. But I'm gonna address your comment here. Was the Cold War the 80s were? Was this the Cold War the 80s were warning us about? No, I actually think that this is a renewed Cold War. I actually think like this is kind of like the sequel, if you will, to the Cold War. I mean, I think there was always animosity between us and Russia, even after the Berlin Wall came down, and even after Yeltsin came to power and Russia had a quote unquote democratically elected government. I think there were still tensions between us and Russia, just softer tensions, but they were always there. They were always there. And I think there's always been tensions between Russia and Ukraine, and that's why I really wanted to get First's perspective on that, because he sent me some videos recently that I paid mind to, and it really is interesting how here in the West, right, we're fed this narrative that Ukraine good, Russia bad, Putin bad, which, don't get me wrong, like definitely like the things happening are very bad. But it's also like, from what I had seen, Ukraine were no angels themselves. Okay, he first sent me a video called Donbass. I can actually probably link that so I can show you guys. The video was called Donbass, and basically it was kind of eye opening because we saw the former president of Ukraine, Petros Poroshenko, who was president before Zelensky became president, basically making like really Russophobic comments. Like he made some comment about Russian children being beasts and should sleep in the cellar. So it's like, there definitely was, some Russophobia going on in Ukraine. There definitely was some persecution and racism. Was it to the extent, that Putin is saying, like he needs to quote unquote denazify the country? I mean, I guess that's hard to say, right, without being there, because that's why after seeing after seeing that, and seeing several bits and pieces from both sides, it's like now we gotta like try to patch the truth together using the information, because that the information we're getting from our news here is just going to make us look like the good guys and try to make Russia look bad. And it was, similarly like stuff with like Iraq, right? It was always tried to justify it, but that's a war that I've said, even back then, that we were in the wrong for. And it's like, at the end of the day, does might make right? Because if there's anything that this conflict has taught me, it's that our arsenal is crazy. We took, a military that was ranked supposedly the 25th or 26th, most powerful military in the world, that being Ukraine. Like, yeah, first brought it to my attention, before this all started. Sure, they're the largest. They were the largest, if you consider them Western Europe, which I would say more they're closer to Eastern Europe. But the largest military. Okay, sure. I mean, they're actually probably the largest country. They're like the size of Texas, and, among a bunch of small European countries. But Russia is supposed to be the second most powerful military in the world, next to the United States. So if we're able to if we're able to provide weaponry and training to a country, that should be 20, that should have gotten smashed by the Russian military, and now they're making advances this quickly. It's kind of a scary thing, right? Because like we can basically just use our military prowess and arsenal to in a sense bully the world. Let's look at some comments here. With Boris Johnson out as British PM, Ukraine isn't getting support from England anymore. Yeah, but I mean, it's like, how much longer are they going to need it? I mean, like, I don't know what's going to. The Europe winter will break Europe, and they will appease Russia for the energy. So that is actually an interesting point and something I wanted to talk about tonight. About the energy, about there's a war. There's two wars going on, right? There's the physical war, the war on the ground, and then there's the sanction war, and then the energy war. And we're seeing some crazy bills. I think I'd seen a picture of like a bill from Germany. Somebody's electric bill was like 9,000 euros or something. Something that you obviously could never afford. And I'm hearing that there's protesting and even in some cases rioting in regards to that. But here's the thing: it seems, WCP, that Europe's just doubling down, man. I believe they told Russia the other day that, okay, you turn off the pipeline, and we're only going to buy it for 1/5 of the price that you were originally selling it to us for, when it comes back on, and we're going to cut you off from every other trade. So I don't know if that's a bluff, if they have some type of alternate energy source that they're hoping to implement by winter. I don't really see how that's possible, or if that could just be a big balk. But Europe is talking pretty big right now. And if that is the case, I mean, here's the thing too, right? Is that I guess they know that like who's really, if you stop selling to Western Europe, who's Russia gonna have for customers? It ain't gonna be the United States. We get what, like 80% of our oil from Canada. I mean, they really make a lot of money selling it to Western Europe. Who are their customers going to be? So they're going to be sitting on a bunch of oil that isn't going anywhere. Let's see, World War III, Russia, China versus America and Europe. I mean, that's what everybody seems that seemed to be the direction a few months ago that we were going to. That's what we were talking about. But it's like, China is definitely watching what's happening in Ukraine right now, and basing their decisions on what to do based on that. Like, it's like, okay, when you see how quickly Ukraine has been advancing the past couple of days, And because okay, let's rewind a couple of months, right? I think it was around May, June when the Battle of Severodonetsk was going on. All right, Severodonetsk and the Battle of Lysychansk. Both of those are cities that are on high ground. Okay, and Ukraine was getting massacred in those battles, like losing 300 men per day in those battles. And it seemed like all like basically like they were just screwed, right? They got like encircled within a week, and it was because Russia had superior artillery range at that point. Then that was the time where Ukraine was begging us, please, we need howitzers, we need HIMARS, and we were saying, hey, you can't use the HIMARS to attack inside of Russia. So we finally there were negotiations. Finally, we get them these damn things, and all of a sudden, the front line kind of fizzles out. It became like things come to like a standstill because Ukraine didn't use these things to attack, Russian infantry and armor. They were using it strategically to attack Russian ammunition. You can't get ammunition to the front line, you can't advance. So they were using it more strategically, but it started really turning things around. And now there's actually it's rumored that there were missiles beyond the HIMARS that we gave them behind the scenes. Nobody knew about it publicly, and that's what's being used in the East right now to push them back. So again, it's like how much of what we actually gave them, of what of us and Western Europe gave them, was made public knowledge, and what weapons does our military have that we can't even fathom. It's pretty crazy, but I mean, I think we're all seeing like the result, on the ground right now. And unless Russia does something drastic, it looks like they're going to be pushed out of the East very soon. I mean, they're losing ground rapidly every day. I mean, 700 square miles over a 48-hour time window. That is a lot of. That's like we're talking about like we're talking like like the storming of like Omaha Beach here. Let's go to some comments. Putin should not be underestimated. He's not stupid. No, he's not stupid, but he bet the farm on this entire thing, Jeremiah. I think, you know, Putin knows that he's probably not going to be alive all that many more years, and it does seem again that the intent here was to take back, former Soviet states. It's never gonna be explicitly stated, but I think it was implicit. And again, that's why I really wish First had actually come on, because I would have liked to have gained his input on that too. But it seems like Putin was probably, had Ukraine been successful, he would have probably found a justification to go beyond that. It seems like that was the direction that we were going in. Putin was the head of Yes, that's correct. Putin was in charge of the KGB in the 80s. That is right. He was stationed in West Germany, I believe, and he speaks fluent German. Fun fact. With all the Russia-Ukraine war, so you think I have a better shot at a mail order bride? I'm going to go with probably no, WCP. That's probably going to be a no. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what's to come, right? I mean, yeah, here's the thing, right? Again, like I'm saying, this is not like a Russian collapse is not necessarily a good thing for the United States or the rest of the world. Um, because hey, Russia's got a lot of oil, and if you have a bunch of smaller states, vying for control over that, what does that do? What's that going to do to the global price of oil? What's that going to do to the global economy? I mean, Russia, again, one country accounts for 10% of the Earth's landmass. So Russia being destabilized, I can see that having I mean, think about the economic effects of this war already, right? What gas got to here in the United States over the summer what gas costs, in Western Europe now, in Great Britain, in Germany, in France, and you know what I mean. So if Russia were to become destabilized, I can see that having mass economic impact all over the world. To be honest, because Russia is a pretty big player. So um, yeah, not going to be a probably not going to be a good time. I'm curious though what everybody thinks. Like, is Russia going to try again if they get pushed back to their borders, as it seems to be happening in the Eastern Front by now? What's going to happen? Are they going to mass mobilize? Could they mass? Do they even have the capacity to mass mobilize? And I guess the $1 million question is, what would a backed to the wall Putin do? How far would he take things? Would he consider using a tactical nuke? Because remember, losing this war could mean losing power for him. But it did seem right that a lot of us in the a lot of people saw the early days the Russian military underperforming, and we were told, anytime the Ukrainians started won any battles, oh, it's Western propaganda, Russia's going to dominate. They're the second best military in the world. Ukraine is only like 25th or 26th or what have you. But the fact that that the invasion started in February and we're here in September shows us that just wasn't the case, right? Like, if their goal was to demilitarize Ukraine, they've definitely failed in that goal, because it seems like Ukraine's military is doing just fine. It actually seems like they're in the process of demilitarizing themselves, because there was an article that first had sent me, you know, that was saying that, oh well, Ukraine is losing 300, sometimes 400 men in a day, and at one point in the war, that for Ukraine that was true. Again, I go back to the Battle of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, where they just did not have the artillery to keep up with Russia, and Russia was pounding away at them with artillery. And you can't really win in modern day, right? The best air force and the best art and whoever has artillery superiority is usually gonna win the battle. And it's just kind of shocking how, like, the artillery upgrades that we've given have really turned the tide of this war around. That's actually pretty astounding. Anyway, let's look at some of these comments. It's over for me. That's very sad. They opened the oil reserves. We have none now. Yeah, probably true. Well, because gas has been dropping here. Do you think it'll go back up WCP? Because, like, we don't get a lot of our oil from Russia, to be honest. Most of our oil in the States here comes from Canada, something like 80%. So, and even if let's say even if this became a protracted, long drawn out sanction war, even though we have Democrats in power right now, I think eventually, before they'd cave to Russia, because we do have oil here, they'd consider, getting the Keystone XL going, or drilling in Alaska, drilling more in Texas, because we have plenty of oil here too. So it's just after midterms, the gas will go up. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it will. Also, keep in mind too. Well, maybe after the winter time, because gas usually just drops anyway in the winter time due to less demand. Well, I guess you being in the south, maybe it doesn't affect it as much, but up here in the north, it definitely dips during the winter months for sure. But I'm sure after the midterms, we will see some type of change too. Yeah, for sure. So good call out. No, he wants that. He wants that pipeline. Um, I don't know. Hey, Jeremiah, if you actually want to come on and talk about this, don't even know how to get you on this new software. I gotta figure that out. I don't know if you wanted to come on and talk about this. I would actually love to have that conversation with you, though. Russia was getting yeah. Well, in the Eastern Front, anyway. I actually haven't even checked for updates from the Southern Front in Harrison. I know that was I was full disclosure. I was expecting the whole thing to just be like this long, drawn out slog. Just taking a couple of villages every day. And Russia taking a few back, and like a little some back and forth, which is kind of like what was happening in Harrison. And even the first day or so of the Harrison offensive went really, really bad for Ukraine. It's rumored that they lost like 1,500 to 2,000 men over the first 2 days of the Harrison offensive, and I did see a lot of destroyed Ukrainian armor. So I do think that was true. However, again, it looks like the Harrison offensive was a feint, to divert attention away from Kharkiv and that front. And a lot of people think that Kiev was a Russian feint, but they never actually had serious plans to seize it. So it could have been. It definitely could have been. I remember the 40-mile long military convoy that was menacing towards Kiev in the beginning of the war. So I don't know if that was a feint or not. Maybe it was a probe to see what kind of resistance they'd get. They wanted to see how hard Ukrainians would actually fight. That could have been it. So there's so much strategy that goes on behind the scenes. So I remember that episode of Seinfeld where the Ukraine. Yes, you think Ukraine is weak? I smash your game. Yes, I don't even like Seinfeld, but I remember that episode. Yeah. Jeremiah says I haven't kept up with my man Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine. Yeah, so CRP was in Ukraine, and he was in Kharkiv actually, and he was pretty adamant that Ukraine was the one in the wrong here, and was siding with Russia. He said that they were doing the right thing. So and then he was actually interrogated by Ukrainian police. He was picked up by Ukrainian police and interrogated. So it does seem like they were trying to hide something there. Keep in mind again, it was that smart, to be saying bad things about a country that you're actively residing in during a war? Probably not. Probably not. Was he telling the truth? I'm not. I did find it a little bizarre that CRP used to talk about, oh, I want to leave the West. The West is so bad, and then he goes to Ukraine of all places. I mean, I would think if he sided with Russia, he would want to live in Russia. So that didn't really make much sense to me. But again, I don't know. I think he's still making content though, Jeremiah. I haven't watched much of him in a while. I was watching him a bit at the beginning of the war, but I haven't kept up with him really in a while either. So not really sure what the case is there. See, I have not heard from First since almost the top of the hour, so I'm just gonna assume that he's not coming on. So again, if Jeremiah wants to come on, or WCP or Carolina, I can have another guest. So like I said, this is really my my one day to do this stream, so I wanted to make it good. Let's see. CRP only went to Ukraine because that was the only place he can beta bucks. But apparently he dated models here. You didn't know? So that's actually a point of contention, and I hate going. I don't even want to talk about black pill stuff and lookism. I feel like that conversation has just been beaten like a dead horse. But that is a good point when we talk about CRP's credibility, because that's my whole thing. Is evaluating the credibility of the person saying it. From a black pill perspective, CRP saying that he dated models wouldn't really hold up. I mean, let's just be honest here. He's really not a very good looking dude. So if he was not telling the truth about that, that kind of damages his credibility for when he says these things about Russia, doesn't it? Like it kind of his track record for telling the truth isn't necessarily the best. But again, hey, maybe he wasn't lying. Maybe because as you know, I'm not hardcore on that black pill lookism stuff myself. Maybe his claims were true. Who knows? But and if they are, then he's got good credibility in my eyes. But we won't know. I looked up Mr. Lira. He is worth about $60 million. Wow, wow. He's from Chile, right? He can't. I think he's from Chile, and I forget what he did to make his money. Because to tell you the truth, I haven't watched him in a really long time. I never found him the most interesting. He has some interesting content, but I kind of feel like again he kind of was delivering the same message, over and over, which is why I kind of haven't kept up with him in the longest time either. So not really sure, to be honest. Just gonna try something here quick. Hold on. Yeah, it's not working. All right, so I mean I miss first. The manosphere has really changed. Yeah, it really has. It's just not there's not a lot of great content out there anymore. If you watch like I do like the Vital Message, Blaxican, Self-Made, Shift. Those guys put out some good content, so I definitely if you check those guys out, it's pretty entertaining content. So not to you know yeah, just check it out. It's probably the best Manosphere content right now. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. Like first coming back would be cool. There were some pretty cool people with some good ideas. But I don't want to go too far off topic off of the Ukraine conflict. So I guess we'll just have to continue to follow it and see what happens. I don't even know what to expect at this point. I never thought that they would actually really advance this quickly, especially on the Eastern Front. I thought that's where Russia was most heavily reinforced. So I don't know what's going to happen. Some people are saying, this is going to be a collapse of Russia. Some people are saying that, Russia's going to mass mobilize and it's going to turn into an all out war. Um, I don't know, honestly, what to expect. I try to keep up with it and verify sources each time. Like I showed you in my in my last video, I actually verified where an exact street was using satellite imagery because to verify that it actually was in fact where they said it was. And that's the level of proof we have to demand right now. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So that's pretty much where I think I'm gonna leave it. Um, You guys let me know. Hold on. I'm glad I'm too old to be drafted. I hear Germany, Deutschland is hurting for heat. Well, yeah, that's where I saw that bill for 9,000 euros. I believe that was from Germany. So yeah, because Germany is almost completely reliant on Russian oil. So not really sure, again, where they're going to get oil from. Um, Russia is self-sustaining. So here's my thought on that. Russia is self-sustaining if they have Western Europe as a customer. But then again, like here's the thing, like there's kind of a codependency there because Russia needs to sell that oil to somebody. If they can't sell it, what good is it? You know, what I mean, you have the supply, but not the demand. So it's kind of like Russia and Europe both plunging a sword into their stomach. As far as I'm concerned, it's mutual destruction. Oh, I'm not going to read that one. Russia is self-sustaining. America is not self-sustaining. That is true right now, but I think what this has taught us so far, anyway, is that a lot of people thought that the West, we're here, we're apathetic, we don't care. Russia and China, they've got the drive. They're ready to go. The East is going to become the dominant power in the world. I think this again was available because I was told on good authority when this all started, back even before February, just when Russia was amassing troops at the border. I was told there's no scenario where this works out long term for Russia. In the end, if they go through with this, they will wind up on their ass. And it's certainly looking right now like that is going to be the case. I mean, they have suffered and again, just to be clear, we lost a lot of battles in the American Revolution and ended up winning the war. Losing a couple of battles does not mean you're losing the war. However, they've lost 700 square miles in a matter of 3 to 4 days that took them 2 months to capture. That's a bad rate of attrition right there, right? I mean, that is getting overpowered. So I think that a lot of people who doubt in the West, should really after seeing this anyway, might want to reconsider their opinion because I think when push comes to shove, the West still has, and I'm not saying that we're always right just because we have all this military might. Okay, that's not my point here. I'm not saying that we should use our military might to just bully the world. We're not always the good guys. We need to be honest with ourselves about that. As I've said, Iraq was something we should have never done. We were entirely in the wrong for that. I've said that since I've been saying that since I was a teenager. I felt that Afghanistan had some justification because we were attacked on our soil. So that was a response to an attack on our own soil. But I mean, you want to Jeremiah. Okay, to put it in perspective, right? Us as the number one military power in the world. When we went to Iraq, we got to Baghdad in 2 weeks. 2 weeks we were in the capital, right? And basically after three, within a month's time, we'd basically, subdued their military. And then we all know the rest. We had 20 years of fighting skirmishes with insurgents. Now that was military dominance right there, right? We came in and the Iraqi military really couldn't put up a fight. And again, were we in the wrong for it? absolutely. That was Bush. Bush Jr. had a vendetta against Saddam. Saddam tried to kill his daddy, 20 years ago. Bush used our military as a tool to try to settle a personal vendetta. Saddam was a horrible dictator. Saddam did terrible things to his own people. But the problem is, you want to unseat one dictator, you got to unseat all the dictators, right? It was like Obama with Gaddafi. Gaddafi had been in power in Libya for 50 something years. And then all of a sudden, it's a problem out of nowhere. It's just magically Gaddafi, of all people, is a problem. And, we just had to take him out. And actually, Libya seems to be less stable now with us taking him out. So, Bombs Over Baghdad by Outkast. Good song. Yeah, word. I could listen to some Outkast right now. That's a blast from the past. But that's the point I'm making here, is that's what military dominance looked like. If, the fact that we're even having this conversation, 8 months later, means that it was not, military and it was the same thing. We only sent about 15 to 20% of our troops, there from the get go, right? It was all that was needed. You can say the same for Russia, right? They only sent 20% of their troops into Ukraine. Fair argument. But the fact is, if they were, think about this too, right? It's a confrontation with NATO that Putin's always been worried about. Hey, NATO, we don't want NATO expanding eastward. NATO needs to stay where it is. Finland and Sweden shouldn't join NATO, or that's a reason to declare war. NATO, NATO, NATO. When is this confrontation between Russia and China and NATO coming, right? He's worried about NATO. If you mass mobilize and send, your entire military into Ukraine, right, you've essentially bogged down your entire military on one front. Now, what happens if there really is a war with NATO? Well, you're screwed. But here's the real kicker, is that Ukraine has done heavy damage to that 20% that Putin sent in there. So it's a major punch in the face for Russia. It's a bloody nose. And, I'll be the first to say it. Yeah, the West has been using this as a proxy war. I don't really think this was about, about Ukraine, right, and their freedom and all that good stuff. I think this is the second time that the United States has done this. We gave Afghanistan plenty of weapons to fight Russia back in the 70s and 80s. Russia, I believe, invaded Afghanistan in 79, and we kept funding them, giving them weapons until eventually Russia was driven out of Afghanistan. And boy, did that one come back to bite us, 20 years down the road. Let's hope this one doesn't as well, right? We've certainly armed Ukraine to the tooth. Let's hope that doesn't come back to bite us down the road. Libyans were after the time traveling technology. Yeah, Obama took his DeLorean there. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say for tonight. Sorry about the whole thing. I'm not quite sure what happened with First, but honestly, maybe even for the better, because I'm getting used to using this new software. So probably good to break it in or just have kind of like a test stream. But I think we covered the current state of affairs in Ukraine right now. So I don't know if they continue advancing at the rate that they're going, they may push Russia back inside their borders within the next month. That would be something. Um, yeah, your high IQ comments definitely saved the show. Appreciate that. But yeah, if they were to push them back within their borders within 2 weeks, I think that would be, that would really be like one of the most significant military victories in in history, arguably. I mean, that's just, wow. Like when I saw that they took Izium and Kupiansk today, I was like, I didn't even like believe it at first. When I looked at the mapping and how much it changed in just like, a 36-hour span, I was like, whoa, like that's a fast advance. And again, maybe it's some kind of Russian trap. Um, I doubt it, but we shall certainly see. So anyway, this is my first time using OBS. Sorry, this wasn't really the most productive stream, but I think we covered the main topics. Let me know in the comments, and hopefully the next one will be better. Bye, everyone, and have a great night.